I am the most esteemed and affluent lady of the entire Liang dynasty, the Princess Lingyu, conferred by the emperor himself and the future consort of the crown prince. However, on the eve of our grand wedding, the crown prince seeks to annul our engagement for the sake of the maid Lin Rongwei. He believes that I was granted the title of princess solely due to him. Yet, he remains unaware that only the prince I have chosen may ascend to the throne as crown prince. 1. Beneath the invaluable pomegranate tree, I observed Meng Liangzhou, whose countenance bore an expression of unwavering determination. "Is it true, Your Highness, that you intend to break off the engagement? All for that maid?" He glared at me with intensity, retorting, "I have made it clear. She is a lady-in-waiting, literate and well-mannered, not merely a maid."
Oh.
As I continued to savor the pomegranate, he resumed, "Rest assured, I shall compensate you for this. After all, we have grown up together. Whatever you desire, I shall fulfill. Moreover, you are not at a loss. You shall attain the status of a princess. With the wealth of the Zhang family, countless suitors will vie for your hand, leaving you with no cause for concern."
Oh.
This time, I couldn't even muster the energy to lift my eyelids. My tolerance for him had already reached its limit. Meng Liangzhou was incensed by my demeanor, stating, "I am aware of your sorrow, yet your attitude toward me has become quite unbecoming." I lifted my gaze to meet his, offering a gentle smile. "Someone, please escort him out." 2. From a tender age, I was cherished by the emperor, becoming the envy of noble ladies throughout the capital. The sole daughter of the wealthiest family in Daliang, Zhang Lanqin. Upon my birth, my father and the emperor conferred together on my name. The emperor proposed Lan, which embodies the essence of freedom akin to mountain scenery and gentle breezes. This reflected the emperor's innermost aspiration for a life unshackled and undefinable. My father suggested Xi, signifying wealth, for he believed that with riches, one would fear nothing. Their disagreement culminated in a compromise, resulting in a name that was both elegant and commonplace.
3.
It is worth noting that my father had the leverage to engage in such disputes with the emperor. Their camaraderie began in their youth, as my father accompanied the emperor in studies and archery, developing a bond akin to that of brothers. After the demise of the previous emperor, the current emperor was ensnared in a perilous situation in the mountains, and it was my father who, disregarding his own safety, rescued him. When the emperor ascended the throne amidst border unrest and an empty treasury, my father shed his official robes, declaring, "Wait a moment, I shall earn you some money." Within 2 years, the capital was adorned with the Zhang family's insignia. My father contributed all his earnings to the royal treasury, compelling other merchants to follow suit. Once the treasury was replenished, the emperor confidently dispatched troops to secure the borders. However, my father, having no desire to return to courtly service, vowed to the emperor, "I shall forever be your support. As long as the Zhang family exists, you need not worry about finances. Go forth and act." The emperor, with tears in his eyes, undertook the construction of canals and embankments, garnering the praise of the populace. In the year of my birth, my father was bestowed the title of national merchant, a status that surpassed all dukes and noble lords. 4. The emperor, blessed with many sons yet devoid of daughters, frequently summoned me to the palace. Observing me chase after the princes, the emperor laughed heartily. Indeed, our Lanner should embody such carefree spirit, unburdened by the pretensions of noble women. Although they reached a compromise in naming me, the emperor affectionately called me Lana, while my father referred to me as Xiner. Growing up under the care of such obstinate figures, I could hardly afford to be anything but headstrong. From a young age, I delighted in the company of Meng Liangzhou, the most handsome among the princes, whom I had admired since our first encounter. My father remarked that I had inherited his penchant for judging by appearances. Thus, he was the capital's most beautiful woman, my mother, and together they bore the capital's second beauty, me. Until I turned 10, Meng Liangzhou was always eager to play with me. While I climbed trees in the imperial garden, he stood below, watching over me with care. When I fished in the clear spring pond, he basked in the sun nearby. On rainy spring days, I would dash down the long street, drenched, while he rushed after me, holding an umbrella. My father noted that I, ever restless, and he, ever immobile, were perfectly matched. 5. Most princes adhered to strict decorum, a reflection of their mother's teachings. With the empress having no sons, the throne succession relied solely on the emperor's favor. Thus, the concubines endeavored to cultivate their sons into well-rounded individuals, embodying both virtue and talent, cultivating a demeanor of maturity, as stability was deemed paramount. As the eldest, Meng Liangzhou was the most adept at grasping these teachings. However, not all princes conformed. Meng Liangchen, the elder son of the favored concubine, lived quite freely. After a heavy snowfall one winter, I rushed to the palace's theater, eager to leave my footprint in the snow, only to encounter Meng Liangchen, who shared my ambition to leave the first impression on the pristine ground. We exchanged a glance and charged forth, though I could not outrun him. He stumbled and fell just before the theater, allowing me to leave the first footprint, which filled me with glee. He rose, dusting off the snow, exclaiming, "Well done, little girl. Next time it snows, this place will belong to me." I rolled my eyes at him. "You are merely 2 years my senior, still a child. Unlike brother Liangzhou, who carries himself like an adult." He disdainfully snorted. "Him? Utterly tedious." 6. From that day forth, every snowfall prompted me to reside in the palace, where I would compete with Meng Liangchen for the first footprint the following morning. Though he boasted, he always fell short of victory. Each time I danced about in triumph, he would vow, "Next time I shall surely win." Yet, as the winter passed, he never succeeded even once. Thus, our rivalry evolved from snow prints to fishing, tree climbing, horse racing, archery, and tossing pots. Yet regardless of the contest, he could not best me. Upon returning home, muddy and disheveled, Meng Liangzhou would frown. "Go and tidy yourself." He had ingrained the importance of propriety deeply within him. Anyone with royal connections should consistently exemplify regal poise. Conversely, Meng Liangchen disregarded his elder brother's admonitions, asserting that Meng Liangzhou resembled a soulless automaton. Does he believe that by adhering strictly to decorum, father will designate him as heir? Our father despises such rigidity. I recognized the truth in Meng Liangchen's words. The emperor favored those who were not constrained by rules, much as he did in his youth when he disguised himself to partake in folk festivities, winning first place in an archery contest. That inferior bow, now a cherished keepsake in his study, symbolizes his youthful aspirations, much like my own. The emperor found delight in the innocence of children, who neither harmed others nor crossed boundaries. Even when Meng Liangchen fell from a tree, bruised and battered, the emperor lauded his bravery, gifting him the coveted red shadow horse that all the princes desired. 7. Meng Liangchen, atop his magnificent steed, circled the imperial city before proudly riding to the Zhang residence to boast about his new mount. "Father has gifted me a fine horse. Next time we race, I shall surely defeat you." I remained unimpressed. I could simply ask my uncle for a horse, and before sunset, it would belong to me. Meng Liangchen's eyes widened, his voice tinged with panic. "You wouldn't dare." I smiled at him. "With such time on your hands, you might as well read a few more books. I hear brother Liangzhou's essays are even praised by the grand scholars now." Unyielding, Meng Liangchen huffed in response, "Very well, just you wait." Subsequently, I did not see him for several months, as I learned he had focused on his studies. When the first snow of winter arrived, I hurried to the theater, spotting Meng Liangchen from a distance. "Why didn't you leave a footprint? I saved it for you. As a man, I shall let you win this time." He then added, "After we leave our footprints, I will take you to see the play I wrote." Upon hearing this, I was overjoyed, eagerly jumping into the snow to leave 2 prints before tugging at his sleeve. "Let us go. I cannot wait to see it." We nestled together in the snow-laden pavilion, watching Meng Liangchen's adaptation of the immortal match. The final act, a bittersweet farewell as the maiden returned to the heavens, leaving the scholar behind, moved me to tears. Meng Liangchen brought 2 flasks of wine. "Have a drink, and you shall cease your tears." It was my inaugural encounter with alcohol, leading me to a state of inebriation where I lost all sense of self. Meanwhile, the emperor pursued Meng Liangchen throughout the palace in a fit of rage. Yet he proclaimed without regret, "Your capacity for drink pales in comparison to mine. Should you concede this round, you shall forever remember me." At my 10th birthday banquet, Meng Liangchen faced the emperor's wrath once more. He claimed to have prepared the finest birthday gift for me, leading me to the highest tree in the palace grounds, directing my gaze toward a nearby lotus pond. To my astonishment, I discovered that the lotuses had already begun to bloom in the springtime. their petals resembling a delicate hairpin when viewed from above. As I marveled at this sight, Meng Liangchen produced a jade hairpin. I crafted this myself. Isn't it exquisite? It mirrored the appearance of the blooming lotuses perfectly. From a young age, I had been the recipient of boundless adoration, rendering even the most opulent gifts indistinguishable in my eyes. This was the first time I truly grasped the essence of heartfelt sentiment. Observing my touched expression, Meng Liangchen began to bask in his own pride. I summoned the waters from the hot springs and attempted countless times before successfully coaxing these lotuses into bloom. So, what do you think? This birthday gift surpasses anything Meng Liangzhou could offer, does it not? What had Meng Liangzhou presented? I strained to recall, and it seemed to be a box of golden pearls, or perhaps a golden necklace. Numerous gifts, yet all rather similar. Thus, I could only nod in affirmation. Your birthday gift is the finest. Meng Liangchen was elated. See, Meng Liangzhou has fallen short this time. Do you remember that? As the banquet was about to commence, we prepared to descend the tree. Typically, I could navigate down with ease, but today, adorned in formal attire, while climbing was effortless. Descending proved a challenge. Halfway down, I misstepped and fell from the tree. Although my limbs remained unbroken, the physician proclaimed that I had strained my muscles and would require 3 months of convalescence. This time, Meng Liangchen did not evade the emperor's wrath. Instead, he bore a few solid blows in my stead. Does it hurt? Does it hurt? The following day, Meng Liangchen approached me, nursing his injuries, and we simultaneously inquired. After our exchange, laughter bubbled forth from us both. Surely you despise me for confining you indoors throughout this spring, with your temperament. How could you endure 3 months of idleness? I chuckled. If I were to hate you, what difference would it make? Meng Liangchen then produced a book. Then I shall come daily to atone for my transgressions, entertaining you until the physician permits you to venture outside. He began reading tales to me, at times adopting a high-pitched voice to portray a delicate maiden, at others, assuming the demeanor of a grand general. From that day forth, Meng Liangchen visited me each day, regaling me with stories, displaying his prowess with weapons, or bringing various fashionable trinkets, thus brightening my days of recovery immensely. Yet, Meng Liangzhou never once came to see me. When I inquired about him, Meng Liangchen hesitated. Elder brother has been preoccupied with his studies. Father is keeping a close watch on him, but he will certainly visit you once he has the time. I recognized his deceit. He never referred to Meng Liangzhou as elder brother. The more I pressed, the more irritated he became. What is so remarkable about him? Am I not here keeping you company? Indeed, what was so remarkable about him? Perhaps only his striking appearance. By the time I was allowed to venture outdoors, summer had fully arrived. The emperor had taken my father south for a discreet visit, leaving the court in the hands of the newly 15-year-old Meng Liangzhou. I was overjoyed and rushed to congratulate him, aware that this was a test of his qualifications for the role of crown prince. I skipped into his study, but upon seeing me, he did not inquire about my well-being. Instead, he frowned. Lan Xian is no longer a little girl. Her conduct ought to be more composed. As expected, he remained unchanged. Elder brother Liangzhou, have I grown taller in the 3 months since we last met? Before I could finish my sentence, I was interrupted. Turning to look, I noticed a graceful maid standing by the bookshelf. Your Highness, the comprehensive guide to governance you sought has been found. Shall I begin copying it now? Those who served in the study were typically of the highest rank, yet I had never encountered this maid before.
Who are you?
She did not bow or offer her greetings but replied, I am Lin Rongwei, initially in charge of the palace as Flora. I have gained the favor of the crown prince and have now become a first-rank maid by his side. The court was strictly hierarchical, and those who served closely beside their masters were often of noble lineage, while those relegated to menial tasks were typically the servants of disgraced families. I found her nonchalant demeanor amusing. Coldly, I remarked, when I speak to the crown prince, how dare you interject? Knowing my status, why do you not offer a proper greeting? It is clear that, despite your elevation to a first-rank maid, you have yet to learn the proper decorum. It would be best for you to follow the matron and learn the etiquette first. Upon hearing this, she looked at Meng Liangzhou with a pained expression. Your Highness, I did not intend any disrespect towards Miss Zhang. I was merely concerned about the book you needed. Growing up in the palace, I was well acquainted with such manipulative tactics. Despite my inquiry directed at her, she insisted on addressing Meng Liangzhou to elicit his sympathy. Before Meng Liangzhou could respond, I summoned several maids and had her escorted away. Observing this scene, Meng Liangzhou regarded me with a frosty expression. You have grown increasingly willful. After all, she is merely a maid. Merely a maid, yet why must you cast me a disapproving glance? I retorted, leaving Meng Liangzhou at a loss for words. And he did not see me for over a month. In the days that followed, I pondered why I felt compelled to cling to Meng Liangzhou. Perhaps it was because I was the daughter of the Zhang family, destined to protect the realm of Daliang. My father often remarked that while there may be no contest for the legitimate heir, there remains a discussion surrounding the eldest son. The emperor had been thrust upon the throne amidst a flurry of violence, having benefited from the disputes over legitimacy. Those of higher status and greater age than he had perished in the struggle. In this era of peace, the royal family faced fewer conflicts, to the fortune of the populace. My father worried that after his passing, the Zhang family would lose all ties to the royal family, and no one would ever again selflessly devote themselves to the emperor and the realm of Daliang as he had. Thus, I had always understood that my father wished for me to marry the crown prince, to bind the Zhang family eternally to the royal lineage, ensuring our family would serve as a perpetual treasury for the kingdom. As my father's daughter, I shared his desire for the stability and peace of Daliang. Uncle Huang doted on me so, and I wished for him to experience no worries, chasing after Meng Liangchen even at the age of 80. To my father and the emperor, all princes were alike. The fewer disputes there were surrounding eligibility for the position of crown prince, the more advantageous it was for the stability of the court. Thus, from a young age, I spent the most time with the eldest prince, Meng Liangzhou, and I could only cling to him, entwining my fate with his. However, as I matured, I realized that although Meng Liangzhou was the most handsome man I had ever encountered, I seemed to prefer the unfettered and carefree feeling I experienced in the company of Meng Liangchen. During the days my father was absent, I enjoyed newfound freedom. One day, while indulging in beef noodles at the street market, I spotted the carefree concubine who sat at the table beside me, accompanied by her two sons, Meng Liangchen and Meng Liangze.
Lanea.
The concubine exclaimed as if she had not seen me in an eternity. I insisted that Chun'er fetch you. It is a rare occasion to leave the palace, yet he obstinately refused. I sat opposite the concubine with my bowl of beef noodles. His reluctance is inconsequential. We were meant to cross paths. Together, we sampled various delicacies from the street market, meat dumplings, vegetable pot stickers, sweet cakes, and icy desserts, until we could barely move. Finally resting on a pleasure boat to listen to music and enjoy the scenery. The concubine pinched my plump cheeks and mused, Lana, why do I adore you so? How wonderful it would be if you were my daughter. After a moment of contemplation, she added, if I cannot have you as a daughter, then as a daughter-in-law would suffice. Lana, among my two sons, is there one you find appealing? Before I could respond, she continued, Chun'er is too unruly, always causing you distress. You must not appreciate it. Although Zaire is merely 10 days your senior, he is attentive and dependable, quite capable of caring for others. Once His Majesty returns, I shall request him to bestow a marriage upon you. Meng Liangchen remained silent until he suddenly spoke, his tone flat. Mother, there is no need for such concern. She favors that pretender, Meng Liangzhou. I heard she even punished a maid in the elder brother's study out of jealousy. No wonder she has been ignoring me these days. No wonder you were reluctant to fetch Lana. It turns out the one who felt jealous was my son? The noble consort chuckled, covering her mouth. Meng Liangchen's face flushed instantly as he murmured, her affairs with Meng Liangzhou have nothing to do with me. Why would I feel jealous? I had never seen Meng Liangchen wear such an expression before. I laughed. How could it not concern you? If I were to marry Brother Liangzhou in the future, you would have to address me as the imperial eldest sister-in-law. Meng Liangchen shot a glance at me, then turned his head away, softly saying, if that were the case, you would be quite weary. He would not wish for you to frolic about, nor would he like you to laugh freely, forbidding you to tread upon the snow in winter or to dance in the rain during summer. To live in his image would be rather dull. Moreover, he would not go to great lengths merely to elicit a smile from you. As he spoke, Meng Liangchen lowered his head. I lifted a cup of tea and offered it to him, saying, yet, many things that 10-year-old Zhang Lanxin could do, 15-year-old Zhang Lanxin cannot. We both understood that we could not continue to indulge in whims forever. Just like the noble consort, whose straightforward nature shunned scheming, the emperor was well aware of her fondness for the vibrancy of life. Yet, she had no choice but to maintain an air of decorum in public. For she was the noble consort holding the golden tablet, the mother of 2 princes, and could only occasionally venture out of the palace when the emperor was absent. The evening breeze that day was quite pleasant. As Meng Liangchen escorted me back to my residence, he stood by the carriage with reddened eyes. He gazed at me for a long time, yet ultimately said nothing. Upon the emperor's return from a discreet visit, Meng Liangchen requested to accompany General Zhao to the border. The emperor, well aware of his son's temperament, permitted him to gain experience as an ordinary soldier at the frontier. As for myself, I occasionally met with Meng Liangzhou, as per my father's wishes. Although he was always accompanied by Lin Rongwei, and their bond appeared to grow increasingly intimate, I remained unmoved internally. For years swiftly passed, and as winter arrived, the Empress Dowager remarked upon the monotony of the season, prompting the emperor to invite me to the palace to keep her company. When the first snow fell, I went to the theater as I had in previous years. Since Meng Liangchen's departure, my enjoyment of walking on snow had diminished. I trudged to the theater, only to discover a pair of footprints in the pristine white snow. "Little girl, this time you lost." A strange, yet familiar voice chimed from above. I looked up to see a young man perched atop the theater's roof, watching me through the cascading snowflakes. It was Meng Liangchen. He leaped down and approached me with a smile, causing my nose to tingle as a tear escaped my eye. He had grown much taller and more stately over the years, though he no longer bore the same delicate complexion. But losing once is no reason to cry. "I've lost so many times without shedding a tear," he remarked. Hearing this, I couldn't help but laugh, lightly punching him, to which he replied, "TSK, your strength is not what it once was. I recall Zhang Lanxin's strikes being swift and precise." I laughed again and playfully hit him once more. And he nodded in satisfaction. Indeed, that is the Zhang Lanxin I know. Engaging in this banter transported me back to 4 years prior, as if nothing had changed. "Didn't you say you would return after the new year?" Meng Liangchen smiled proudly. Who could resist coming back after winning a battle? I was promoted to the youngest vice-general in the border army. General Zhao granted me special permission to return to the capital early. Upon hearing this, my tears flowed uncontrollably. He had concealed his identity. In just 4 years, he had risen from an ordinary soldier to a vice-general, enduring countless hardships along the way. Once a prince of high standing, now his features bore the traces of the harsh northwest winds. Noticing my distress, Meng Liangchen wiped my tears while comforting me. "Would you like to watch a show? The shadow puppetry from the border is something you haven't seen in the capital." We nestled in the snowfall pavilion, watching a performance. As I became engrossed, Meng Liangchen wore a contented expression. "I brought back a master of shadow puppetry from the border. I knew you would adore it." Holding the hand warmer, I nodded fervently. "I love it. I love it immensely." "What else did you bring for me?" Meng Liangchen opened a small box. "These are jade earrings, a pair to the hairpin I gifted you earlier. This is a gold-threaded hairpin. This is a sheep-fat jade bracelet. This is a chrysanthemum flower ornament. I spent an entire year crafting it, just in time before returning to the capital." After presenting each item, Meng Liangchen took a mirror, removed my original hair accessory, and adorned my hair with the gold-threaded hairpin and chrysanthemum ornament. "Little girl, these are your long-overdue birthday gifts for the past 4 years." Meng Liangchen had been away from the capital for 4 years, and now that he had finally returned, the noble consort clung to him, insisting he stay until after the new year. Yet, her tears had no effect on him. For my coming-of-age ceremony next year, I wished to see Brother Liangchen. I hesitated for a long while before finally voicing my desire. Meng Liangchen glanced at me, leaning closer with a smile. "You call me Brother Liangchen?" I nodded. "Very well. If your coming-of-age ceremony is to be dull with only someone like Meng Liangzhou attending, it would be quite uninteresting. I shall remain to liven things up." This winter, Meng Liangchen found purpose as he took charge of organizing my coming-of-age ceremony. The noble consort, beaming with joy, exclaimed, "For the coming-of-age ceremony, we must request His Majesty to grant a marriage. Otherwise, no one will ever be able to reign in Chiner." The thought of a marriage request sparked my first rebellious notion against my father's wishes. I invited Meng Liangchen to the Snowfall Pavilion to listen to music, preparing candied chestnuts and ice hawthorn, along with a pot of honey date tea. Meng Liangchen wrapped a deerskin blanket around me as he sat beside the hearth, saying, "It's cold here, yet you insist on coming." Meng Liangchen knew I had always loved listening to music and watching performances at the Snowfall Pavilion during winter. Yet he was unaware of the reason. When I was young, my father asked me to deliver green bean cakes to Meng Liangzhou, but he found me bothersome and wouldn't even open the study door. I cried on the long street, and you brought me here, saying that listening to some tunes would cheer me up. That was the first time I met you, I recounted while nibbling on the ice hawthorn. A blush crept onto Meng Liangchen's face. Are you fond of the Snowfall Pavilion because of me? I offered him a peeled chestnut, saying, I didn't realize it before. I thought the Snowfall Pavilion was simply enjoyable. Yet, in the winter chill, one must wrap themselves in thick blankets, stoke the fire, clutch the hand warmer, and sip hot tea to feel comfortable. It's not truly enjoyable. Now I understand. It is because every visit here has been with you that it has been delightful, making me feel warm. Meng Liangchen sat by the hearth, his face aglow from the firelight. Brother Liangchen, for my coming of age, can you grant me a grand gift? Meng Liangchen nodded. Whatever you desire, I shall provide. I want you to beseech the emperor to bestow a title upon you. I wish for you to marry me as your rightful wife. Will you consent? However, I must make it clear that if you marry me, you may only love me for the rest of your life. My Zhang Lanxin's man shall not fall for any other woman, be she a precious princess or the most esteemed courtesan. You may only gaze upon me. I have known Meng Liangchen for over a decade. He has always been willful and unruly. Today marked the first occasion I beheld him in such a state of nervousness and disarray, his countenance flushed, mouth agape yet unable to articulate a word. After a moment, he suddenly approached me, half crouching beside the soft couch, and declared, Lana, I shall ensure that your coming-of-age ceremony is resplendent. I will make you the most carefree and joyous woman under the heavens. That day, I did not stay within the palace. Instead, I returned home under the cover of night. My father sat in the imperial chair bestowed upon him by the emperor, remaining silent for a considerable time before finally speaking. Exire, you must understand that whichever prince you marry shall inevitably become the crown prince, and in due course, the emperor. I nodded, clutching my sleeves. Daughter understands. My father sighed. In the past, the emperor's brothers engaged in fratricide, and it was the reluctant emperor, a man of wandering spirit, who was thrust upon the throne. In his position, he must govern wisely, thereby confining himself to the palace for a lifetime. The emperor has no legitimate son. All the princes are raised with the ambition to become crown prince, save for Liangchen. He has grown accustomed to freedom, daring to dream and act. He is the one most akin to the emperor among all the princes. I comprehended fully. Because Liangchen resembled my uncle, the emperor could see in him a reflection of his younger self, which is precisely why he is the one most reluctant to be crowned crown prince. He does not wish for Liangchen to suffer the same fate as himself, ultimately trapped within the palace walls. We have sought to bring you closer to Liangzhou, in hopes of mitigating strife between the brothers and establishing the eldest as the heir apparent, thereby reducing disputes in the court. But since you are unwilling, I shall not force you. However, you must clarify with Liangchen that, as the sole daughter of the Zhang family, you bear not only your family's expectations. He continued, if he is willing to remain in the palace for you, I shall petition the emperor to grant your union. That night, I tossed and turned in my sleep, my father's words echoing in my mind 1,000 times. I did not wish to see Meng Liangchen in a state of melancholy, nor did I want to witness him forcing himself to embody the crown prince's demeanor and adhere to his rigid rules. What I cherished was the unrestrained, heartfelt Meng Liangchen. I could not bear the thought of him becoming a false man, the very thing he despised, simply to be with me. A few days later, Meng Liangchen sought me out. He arrived on his steed, Qiying, proposing a winter fishing excursion in the countryside. Though the lake is frozen at the border, beneath the ice, live fish still swim. We would carve holes to fish, seeking a bit of amusement, he explained as he began to break the ice. I stood beside him, holding the reins of Qiying, feeling a flutter of anxiety, sensing he had something significant to convey. They are the fish of winter, sluggish and conformist, only knowing to chase after bait. But I am a summer fish, caught not by mere bait, but by a hook I have chosen. After he had carved a hole in the ice and set up the fishing rod, he guided me onto the frozen surface. Loner, your father visited the emperor yesterday. They spoke at length, and I eavesdropped from outside the study. I, Meng Liangchun, have chosen you, Zhonglan Xian. Even if it is a glaring hook, I would willingly be ensnared, choosing to remain in the palace for a lifetime. As he spoke, he took my hand gently, adding, moreover, being with you does not confine me. Although this water tank may be small with you in it, it becomes an expansive lake. I had never imagined that Meng Liangchun would utter such words. In the midst of our conversation, the fishing rod twitched, and a fish was caught. I tightened my grip on Meng Liangchun's hand. Let us go see my father. This fish need not be confined to a water tank. When Meng Liangchun and I returned to the estate, my father had been summoned to the palace. We hurried to the palace where the emperor was conversing with my father in the study, alongside a solemn-faced Meng Liangzhou and Meng Liangze. As the daughter of the Zhang family, the survival of the nation takes precedence over personal affections. Do you understand? My father was the first to speak upon seeing us enter. What has happened? Meng Liangchun inquired. My father sighed deeply and replied in a hushed tone. The neighboring vassal states have conspired to launch a surprise attack on our Doliang. Now both the northern and southern fronts are under siege, and we have lost 3 cities in quick succession. I shall return to the northern border at once, leading the troops. As a prince, my presence will surely inspire the soldiers, Meng Liangchun proposed. The emperor nodded. You must indeed go. Return to the northern border and join General Zhao in repelling the enemy while I personally lead the troops southward against the other vassal states. Your Majesty is going in person? Can another prince not take your place? I could no longer contain my voice. The emperor shook his head. Liangchun is already a vice commander at the northern border. Revealing his identity will undoubtedly boost the morale of the soldiers. However, after 2 consecutive defeats in the south, the troops are dispirited and the other princes lack credibility within the army. Only my presence can rally everyone to fight effectively. A glance at my father's serious expression confirmed this was the most prudent course of action. In the emperor's absence, a prince must oversee the state. Liang Zhou, as the crown prince, has previously served in this capacity and has the admiration of the court officials. It is imperative that he be the one to govern during this time, my father added, following the emperor's lead. In the event of unforeseen circumstances, the nation cannot be without a ruler, even for a day. After saying this, my father looked at me. Meng Liangchun and Meng Liangzhou turned their gazes toward me simultaneously. I understood fully. The nation cannot afford to be without a ruler. To prevent a struggle for the throne should the emperor meet with misfortune, it is essential to establish a crown prince before the southern expedition. As the eldest son, Liang Zhou is the only one who can oversee the state in the capital during this time. Should anything happen to the emperor, he alone can assume control of the court seamlessly. Xinea. The crown prince requires the support of the Zhang family to gain the respect of the officials and minimize the casualties in the struggle for the throne. My father spoke softly. I turned stiffly to look at Meng Liangchun. His eyes were red, and he bit his lip in silence. I closed my eyes, unable to stop the tears from flowing. My heart ached to the point of asphyxiation, yet I felt utterly powerless. This was my only choice, the Zhang family's only option. With no alternative, I was conferred the title of Lingyu Princess and betrothed to Crown Prince Meng Liangzhou, with our wedding to be arranged after my 16th year. The emperor led his troops southward, and my father, unable to quell his concern, accompanied him. Meng Liangchun marched northward, and I watched from the city walls as he donned his armor, brimming with vigor, while my heart wept rivers of sorrow. Each day, I would pray and transcribe scriptures, beseeching for their safety. After Meng Liangzhou was crowned as crown prince, he slept only 2 hours a night, buried beneath a mountain of memorials, governing the state. I had not visited him even once. I had once thought marrying anyone would be the same, but now I realized, when one harbors someone dear in their heart, others are but mere foliage. Yet, despite my reluctance and his lack of enthusiasm, there was one who cared more than either of us, Meng Liangzhou's birth mother. Consorte. Consorte had once been a palace maid, elevated to a favored concubine by the late emperor due to her beauty, and after giving birth to her first son, she was promoted to a noble consort. When the emperor ascended the throne, Meng Liangzhou became the crown prince, and naturally, she rose to the status of consorta, ranking only beneath the empress and the favored consort in the palace hierarchy. Unlike the favored consort, who had been pampered since childhood, consort showed little concern for her son's desires. For her, power and status were of utmost importance. While I was seated in the favored consort's palace, engaged in a game of chess, I was invited by consort to have a brief chat. She treated me to pre-rain longjing tea and plum blossom pastries. Your Zhang family possesses everything, so you are used to the finest delicacies. However, this plum blossom pastry requires great effort. It must be made from the freshly bloomed palace pink plums, crushed and then steamed. A single tree yields only a bowl of essence, and that essence can make only this small plate of pastries. Lana, you must try some. I took a bite of the plum blossom pastry, savoring its delicate fragrance, and forced a smile. Thank you, Your Highness. It is delightful. Yet my heart felt constricted. The tea the favored consort had drunk was but ordinary white tea, and her smile seemed forced. China and the Emperor have been at war at the northern border for 10 days now, yet have made no significant gains, indicating that this battle will be prolonged. The winter supplies and clothing are depleting rapidly. The palace must conserve resources so that the soldiers may eat and stay warm. But Your Highness, a single tree of plum blossoms is worth 1,000 taels of silver. Once consumed, it is gone. I could not help but retort. The noble concubine, however, chuckled softly. Lana, you are the sole daughter of the Zhang family. A mere 1,000 taels of silver is hardly significant. In the future, when you ascend to the position of crown princess and ultimately become the empress, a mere plate of fruit will be worth 10,000 taels of gold, and you shall be well able to indulge in such luxuries. She presumed that monetary gifts would win my favor, oblivious to the emperor's toils in the bitter winter and the sacrifices of the bloodied soldiers. Her sole aim was to ingratiate herself with me, hoping for her son to ascend the throne with ease. Alas, I, Zhang Lanxin, have never been one to adhere to convention. This dream of hers, I might allow her to entertain a while longer. As the year drew to a close, the palace lacked the vibrancy of years past. The battle had waged on for over a month, barely holding onto the existing cities, while those lost remained unreclaimed. Mengliangzhou had grown significantly thinner, while the empress and the noble concubine busied themselves with cutting palace expenses to support the front lines. Only the noble concubine maintained her demeanor as the mother of the crown prince. Your Highness, miss, you need not be so anxious. It is normal for the winter borders to be easily defended, yet difficult to assault. We shall await the emperor's triumphant return come spring, she said languidly, while sipping her tea. The empress shot her a disapproving glance. With General Zhao and Chiner at the northern front, their prowess in battle assures us. But the southern front is fraught with winter's chill and spring's dampness. The enemy's cavalry rides elephants, and our horses have been spooked even before battle begins. The emperor is consumed with worry, yet you believe it is merely a matter of waiting? The noble concubine bristled at the empress's words and turned her head away. Moreover, the longer this war drags on, the more provisions and weapons are required, all of which come at a cost. Your precious rain-soaked longjing tea should be curtailed, she added. At this, the noble concubine retorted, Your Majesty is envious of my zhouer becoming the crown prince and uses the guise of frugality to deprive me. You need not be jealous. Soon enough, you shall be the Empress Dowager. I lifted my teacup, taking a sip and smiling. The noble concubine speaks truly. Regardless of who becomes the crown prince, Your Majesty will undoubtedly be the Empress Dowager. What need is there for jealousy? The noble concubine immediately turned her gaze towards me, smiling. Our Lanner is ever the jester. The crown prince has been decided, and it cannot be changed so easily. Besides, you and Zhouer share a deep bond, and none are more suited than you two. The noble concubine's eyes glimmered as she handed me a note, which I feigned as an excuse to step out, followed closely by her. Chiner has written to me, assuring that he will win the battle and return with military honors. He asks you to await him. The noble concubine said, tears welling in her eyes as she grasped my hand. My heart ached, and I nodded, knowing he would surely return. Just after the new year, urgent news arrived from the border that supplies were running low. All the grain stored in the capital and the palace had been sent to the front, yet I calculated that if the war did not conclude within 2 months, it would not suffice. The common folk typically stored grain as a precaution, selling it after winter for the upcoming spring. However, given the limited supply, it was uncommon for officials to source grain directly from the populace. I procured the grains from the citizens at twice the market price, promising that if they ever faced shortages, they could use their receipts to claim free winter provisions from the Zhang family. The people, eager to profit and serve the court, willingly sold their grain. And within a month, I had amassed enough to sustain the border for an additional 3 months. I also dispatched agents to other regions to recruit blacksmiths to increase the production of weapons, preparing for unforeseen circumstances. As anticipated, when spring arrived, word from the border indicated that more weapons and provisions were needed. Meng Liangzhou paced anxiously, while I had already sent supplies to the front. Were it not for Lanner, this supply issue would have lingered for quite some time, the noble concubine said, tears glistening in her eyes as she regarded me. The Empress nodded in agreement. The noble concubine remarked, Lanner is to become the future crown princess. Naturally, she thinks of Zhou'er. I smiled gently. My father often teaches me that the Zhang family is eternally loyal to the court. Such actions are my duty as a daughter of the Zhang family. However, do not think to attach all your gold to your son. The noble concubine chuckled awkwardly, choosing not to respond further. My fervent efforts were not for Meng Liangzhou's accolades, but rather for the valiant soldiers who fought alongside Liang Chen and the emperor to protect the nation. With 10 days remaining until my coming-of-age ceremony, the empress summoned me to the palace. Although the border situation is dire, the emperor has given countless instructions to ensure your ceremony is grand, she said, holding my hand. By now, I had lost the hopeful expectations I had in early winter, yearning for my father to publicly announce my betrothal to Liang Chen during the ceremony. Thank you for your kindness, your majesty. I wish only to gather with friends and family for the ceremony, with my father and the emperor at the border. I beg your forgiveness, as I truly lack enthusiasm. The coming-of-age ceremony was held within the palace, with the concubines presenting numerous gifts. The noble concubine held up a gold necklace sent by Meng Liangzhou. This necklace from Zhou'er is most fitting for Lanner. I replied with a smile. Indeed. The crown prince sends a gold necklace every year. I have had several new outfits made to match these necklaces. The noble concubine chuckled, handing me a box. This is a headpiece I had custom-made for you, adorned with emerald chrysanthemums. I opened the box to find it crafted from the same material as the emerald chrysanthemum hairpiece I received for my 14th birthday from Meng Liangchen. I fought back tears as I thanked the noble concubine. At 15, the age of coming of age and betrothal, he had gifted me every piece of jewelry he had crafted himself. What reason had I to not await his return? As the nominal crown princess, I visited the Eastern Palace after the coming-of-age ceremony. Upon arriving at the study door, I overheard Lin Rongwei's dulcet voice. Your Highness, Miss, the young lady's reputation is soaring. Everyone praises her foresight and preparation, while your months of hard work go unnoticed. Meng Liangzhou replied coolly, I serve the nation and the people, not for the sake of public acknowledgement. In time, they shall see. Lin Rongwei continued, you promised to protect me. Yet I have heard that the young lady has thwarted the noble concubine's words several times before the empress, leaving her without face. She, relying on her esteemed status, dares to humiliate even a mere maid like me. At this, she began to sob softly. Meng Liangzhou's tone softened immediately. Fear not, I shall protect you. From the moment I witnessed you dancing amidst the flowers at the palace, I knew you did not belong there. Upon learning you were once a pampered young lady, my heart ached for you. With me around, she shall not dare to bully you. With a sigh, he continued, you do not know how spoiled she has been since childhood. She is exceedingly willful. She clung to me from a young age, once insisting on bringing me mung bean cakes. When I refused, she cried, and the next day, my father punished me. Ever since, I have had to follow her like a shadow, feigning care for her. Yet, I am utterly vexed by her wild antics, with no interest in poetry or proper conduct. Climbing trees and wading in rivers, lacking any semblance of a refined young lady. Unlike you, gentle and poised, you understand decorum. I pushed the door open to find the two entwined on the couch. Ah, the esteemed master of the Eastern Palace, embracing a maid. What a display of propriety, I quipped, causing Meng Liangzhou's face to flush with embarrassment. He composed himself and retorted, noble ladies know well that eavesdropping is unbecoming. Had I not eavesdropped, how would I know of your disdain for me, or that you have privately pledged your life to a maid? I merely wonder how the noble concubine would react upon learning of this. Could the crown prince still enjoy a peaceful existence? Should the noble concubine discover this, it would likely stir chaos throughout the palace. Now that I see you, I can only liken you to a maggot. I bide my time for the sake of the emperor. If you possess any wit, you will know how to act. Even now, I had no intention of becoming an adversary to the two of them. There exists no law dictating that Meng Liangzhou must cradle me, Zhang Lanxin, in his palm. Yet, despite my intentions, Meng Liangzhou seemed resolute in opposing me. As I diligently searched for esteemed physicians and medicinal herbs to send to the frontier alongside Meng Liangzhou was preoccupied with elevating Lin Rongwei's status. He appointed Lin Rongwei as the steward of the Eastern Palace, thereby necessitating her consent for my entry into the palace, an act that trampled upon the dignity of the Zhang family. However, I remain unperturbed. My aim is for him to exalt Lin Rongwei even further. The higher she is lifted, the more painful her fall will be. I purposefully visited the Eastern Palace, anticipating that I would be barred from entry, which indeed occurred. Subsequently, I dispatched a messenger to casually relay the news to the Empress Dowager. True to my expectations, she rushed into the Eastern Palace with great fervor, administering a severe beating to Lin Rongwei in the Si-Nu coup. Meng Liangzhou, who had been meticulously groomed by the Empress Dowager since childhood, felt an overwhelming pang of anguish upon witnessing his beloved woman subjected to such humiliation by his mother. He promptly took Lin Rongwei into his chambers, designating her as his personal attendant. Yet, this was merely the beginning. Lin Rongwei, much like the Empress Dowager in her youth, harbored ambitions of mirroring her path, yearning to bear the first son for the crown prince before his ascension, thereby securing a position of high esteem. Meng Liangzhou had long been dissatisfied with the Empress Dowager's stringent upbringing. His patience and composure were the result of a habit forced upon him to become the heir apparent. It is indeed laughable that the Empress Dowager, who ascended from a mere maid to a consort, would not permit her son to associate with a maid. These three individuals are bound together, and all I need to do is ignite a spark to set the stage ablaze. I feigned humility, inviting Lin Rongwei to the palace of the Guifei for tea. After all, she is already by the crown prince's side. It is only a matter of time before she holds a rank of her own, so I have brought her here for the Guifei to admire. The Guifei remarked with a smile, "She is indeed quite lovely, a beauty in the making, and upon closer inspection, she seems to rival the Empress Dowager in her youth. Then surely she will attain a status akin to that of the Empress Dowager in the future," I concurred. However, the Empress Dowager was at least a concubine in her day. Miss Lin currently holds no rank and may, at most, become a mere consort, the Guifei lamented. The mention of the Empress Dowager's past, a topic she wished to avoid, darkened her countenance, while Lin Rongwei basked in the praise of her future prestige. Her expression filled with delight. The sole commonality between the two is their shared folly, both firmly believing that Meng Liangzhou's ascension to the throne is an inevitable certainty. Thus, the Empress Dowager would never permit Lin Rongwei to remain in the Eastern Palace. Her presence would serve as a constant reminder of the Empress Dowager's own mocked beginnings. Conversely, Lin Rongwei, having heard the Guifei's words, would be even less inclined to abandon Meng Liangzhou. The curtain has been drawn back on this performance, and I need only to sit back and observe. The Empress Dowager is unworthy of her position. Meng Liangzhou, as the crown prince, is equally unworthy, and Lin Rongwei, the daughter of a traitor, is fortunate enough to escape punishment by serving as a maid in the palace, yet she shows no repentance, concealing her identity in a bid to attach herself to the crown prince. Upon hearing Meng Liangzhou refer to Lin Rongwei as a delicate young lady, I sensed something amiss. A maid tending to the palace as Flora, lacking any rank, could only be a daughter of a traitor. After sending someone to investigate, I learned that Lin Rongwei's father was a corrupt official executed a decade ago, embezzling disaster relief funds, accepting bribes, and allowing tyrants to run rampant, leaving the local populace in abject misery. Those who dared to petition the capital were swiftly silenced. Were it not for my father's incognito visits, the suffering of the common people would have continued unabated. Lin Rongwei's father was executed, and his family exiled, with only whispers of one daughter dying along the way. To my astonishment, it appears she had bribed the officials to gain entry into the palace as a maid. It seems inevitable that Lin Rongwei will soon attempt to entangle herself with Meng Liangzhou. Her ambitions extend beyond mere wealth and status. She seeks to avenge her father by targeting the Zhang family. Therefore, Under no circumstances will I allow Meng Liangzhou to ascend to the throne. I deliberately leaked a recipe purported to be the secret to the Guifei's ability to bear 2 sons. Unsurprisingly, Lin Rongwei managed to obtain this recipe and has been obsessively pondering how to conceive. In truth, it is a concoction that simulates pregnancy for 3 months, creating signs and symptoms of gestation that even the imperial physicians cannot discern. After 3 months, her cycle will return to normal. Meanwhile, my father wrote to inform me of the troubling situation at the southern border, necessitating the enhancement of our steeds' armor and weaponry. As soldiers require the strength to leap onto the backs of enemy elephants in battle, the treasury is likely to falter. And the Zhang family's finances have already been strained by the procurement of arms, provisions, and herbs. I filled out numerous receipts and dispatched them to various shops, promising that those who contribute silver now would have free access to the Zhang family's merchant ships and escort services post-war. Additionally, I assured them that the Zhang family would spare no effort in future assistance. On that day, while I was reconciling the donations received from various shops, news arrived from the palace that Lin Rongwei was pregnant. The empress sat with a furrowed brow in the main hall of the Eastern Palace, while the empress dowager seethed with suppressed fury beside her. The Guifei, seated at the lower left, immediately grasped my hand in tears upon my arrival. Lan, please do not be upset. Whatever transpires, the empress will surely advocate for you. Moreover, the empress dowager is present. I believe she will not allow that vixen to mistreat you. Now, although Lin Rongwei lacks an official title, she has conceived before the crown princess has taken her place in the Eastern Palace, a scandal that would tarnish both the royal family and the Zhang family, compromising their reputations and decorum. Take that wretched woman to the Xi Nu Ku. Without my permission, she is not to be released, commanded the empress. Lin Rongwei protested, wailing in refusal, just as Meng Liangzhou burst into the room, shielding her. Your Majesty, Lin Rongwei carries my first child. A place like the Xi Nu Ku is far too perilous. She may not survive it. Before the empress could respond, the empress dowager bellowed in rage. That is precisely the point. Let her give birth. How will you justify this to the Zhang family, or to your father? I lowered my head in secret delight. The empress dowager always articulates what I wish to hear. Meng Liangzhou cast a glance my way. As the crown prince, must I account to the Zhang family for my actions? What if I marry Zhang Lanxin? Am I then forbidden to take concubines? I lifted my gaze and smiled at him. Of course, taking concubines is permissible, but even a crown prince must adhere to propriety. If the primary wife has not yet entered the household, how can one take a concubine? Without a title, the child Lin Rongwei bears will be born without acknowledgement. If that is the case, why bother giving birth at all? Upon hearing this, Lin Rongwei blurted out, wasn't the Empress Dowager once a maid as well? If she could bear children, why can't I? I turned to the Guifei, and we both struggled to suppress our laughter. Lin Rongwei has an uncanny ability to articulate our every expectation. The Empress Dowager, enraged, rushed over and slapped Lin Rongwei. You, a lowly creature, dare to compare yourself to me? I was a legitimate consort bestowed upon His Majesty by the late Emperor, and everything I did was within the bounds of propriety. You, however, have dishonored the title of a noble lady by seducing the crown prince. Your fate is merciful. The Empress has graciously spared your life by sending you to the Xi Nu Ku. Meng Liangzhou, witnessing Lin Rongwei besieged by 4 adversaries, felt his compassion deepen. He cradled Lin Rongwei in his arms, declaring, "The Eastern Palace is not a place for guests today. You may all take your leave. Even when His Majesty returns." I refused to believe he would be so cruel as to abandon his own grandchild. With that, he carried Lin Rongwei away. The Empress and the Empress Dowager trembled with rage. The Guifei and I exchanged glances, and we knew we had succeeded. The Eastern Palace closed its doors to visitors, and Lin Rongwei was tenderly cared for by Meng Liangzhou. One day she craved lychees, the next fresh river shrimp, followed by a thirst for chilled plum soup. The Empress Dowager was beside herself with fury, unable to enter the Eastern Palace, while the Empress suffered from headaches, leaving only the Guifei and me feeling satisfied. So long as we maintained our distance, in 3 months, even if she wished to cling on, she would find it impossible to do so. 3 months later, as autumn approached, Lin Rongwei saw the signs of her cycle. Lin Rongwei sobbed, breathless, "Your Highness, I am acutely aware of my station. Day after day, I endure humiliation from both the empress and the virtuous consort. Now that the child is lost, it is my fault. The crown prince felt a pang of guilt and sorrow for Lin Rongwei, vowing to grant her a title as compensation in the future. What he intended to offer was likely merely that of a favored concubine. However, what I truly desired was the position of the legitimate wife. The responsibility for crafting armor and weapons for the horses fell to the virtuous consort's second son, Meng Liangze. Under my subtle suggestion, he had also summoned a local physician from Nongguan to concoct remedies to dispel the dampness affecting the soldiers. By summer, the troops struggled to adapt to the humidity of the south, their spirits waning daily, rendering them incapable of battle. As the first winter snow fell, Meng Liangze personally brought the prepared medicines, armor, weapons, provisions, and winter bedding to Nongguan. I sat before the stage, my mind occupied with thoughts of Meng Liangchen. To avoid suspicion, he had been writing letters to the virtuous consort throughout the year, which she would then relay to me. I lingered in a daze at the stage for quite some time, absent-mindedly leaving 2 footprints in the snow before heading to the Snowfall Pavilion. Within the pavilion lay a book that had been perused many times. I picked it up and casually flipped through a couple of pages, discovering a passage about the chrysanthemum, stating that it blooms in desolate places. The ancients exchanged these flowers as symbols of steadfast, silent love. I touched the chrysanthemum hairpin atop my head, tears streaming down uncontrollably. It became clear to me that from the very beginning, he had resolved to guard me steadfastly. On my 16th birthday, news of victory arrived from the northern border. A resounding success. Meng Liangchen would be rushing to Nongguan to join the battle. Along with the good tidings came my birthday gift, a shadow puppet crafted in my likeness. I recalled the year he returned to the capital in high spirits, taking me to the Snowfall Pavilion to watch shadow puppetry. Compensating me for the 4 years of missed birthday gifts, I finally understood his intentions. With the news of victory from the northern border, Meng Liangchen led his troops to reclaim the lost territories of Nongguan during the beginning of summer. Armed with armor and remedies to alleviate the humidity, the soldiers' morale surged, pressing the enemy into retreat. By the summer solstice, not only had Nongguan regained its lost lands, but agreements were also re-established with the vassal states. Before the autumn equinox, my uncle, Meng Liangchen, and my father would return. I donned a new outfit, adorned with the jewelry he gifted me, and eagerly rushed to the city tower to await his arrival. The Grand Army was expected to arrive at noon, yet even before the hour of Jin, I spotted a fiery red horse galloping towards me from afar, raising a cloud of dust. It was Chiang. The rider was none other than Meng Liangchen, the one I yearned for day and night. I dashed down the tower. Meng Liangchen had already entered the city gate. He bore a scar above his brow, his face dusted, and his hands marked with numerous small wounds. My heart ached at the sight, and tears fell. Meng Liangchen attempted to wipe my tears, but with court officials surrounding us, I saw him lower his head and force himself to hold back. "Is everything well with you, my lady?" he asked, his voice trembling. I nodded, striving to maintain my composure. "Everything is fine. The second prince has had a taxing journey. Please return to the palace quickly, for the virtuous consort awaits you anxiously. I will stay here to greet His Majesty and my father." An hour later, the Grand Army finally arrived. My uncle and father both bore the marks of hardship. I threw myself into my father's embrace, crying aloud. As long as they returned safely, that was enough. After regaining my composure, I clung to my uncle, continuing to weep. He gently ruffled my hair. "Who has wronged our honor? Fear not, for your uncle has returned and will seek justice for you." Who had wronged me was evident. The ever-gentle empress had spoken ill of Meng Liangzhou, while the virtuous consort wept beside her. "That wretched girl must be driven away. I only ask that your majesty shows mercy." Considering the crown prince's toil over the past year, Meng Liangzhou knelt upright in the center, neither obsequious nor overbearing. "It is not wrong for me to love Rongwei. She is my woman, carrying my child. I shall protect her. What fault lies therein? A man must have the courage to defend his wife and children, or what face has he to live?" The virtuous consort nearly fainted upon hearing this. Wife and children? My father, seated nearby, nearly laughed aloud. Does His Highness regard a concubine as a wife? What of my ex-honor? The emperor's face darkened. Expel that woman from the palace. If you can amend your thoughts, I shall spare you this once. I exchanged a glance with my father, who continued, as long as that woman is gone, the marriage between Exioner and the crown prince shall proceed as planned. But my Exioner shall never share a husband with a servant. The virtuous consort wept, clinging to Meng Liangzhou. My son, please acquiesce to your father. Reluctantly, Meng Liangzhou agreed, with the wedding date set for the 6th of October. I sat beneath the pomegranate tree, enjoying honeydew with my father. This marriage must be annulled. However, it cannot be proposed by the Zhang family. Only if the crown prince himself calls off the engagement will his reputation be tarnished, and the ministers will not object, allowing for the smooth establishment of another heir. My father reasoned. I nodded. I, too, share the sentiment, hence the path has been laid for him. My father glanced at me and smiled. You're indeed clever. I picked up a nearby pestle to help my father massage his back. If Meng Liangzhou were a competent heir, caring for the people and concerned for the soldiers, capable of handling provisions, weapons, and medicinal issues, would you still wish to persuade my uncle to establish another heir? Must I truly marry him? My father shook his head. Even if he manages affairs well, he will not inherit the throne. He shows no regard for you, and I cannot allow you to suffer in marriage to such a man. There are many princes. You may choose whom you like, and we shall support whoever you favor as the crown prince. Meng Liangzhou's only advantage is his status as the eldest son and your previous fondness for him. But now, he disregards you, humiliating you so. How can I tolerate that? He then took my hand. Exioner, I was wrong. In my desire for stability in the court, I sent you to Meng Liangzhou without consulting your wishes. He has proven himself unworthy, lacking in governance compared to Meng Liangze, and in military prowess compared to Meng Liangchen. The deposed crown prince has left the ministers with no objection. Now, you shall choose for yourself. Whoever you desire shall be the future ruler. After Lin Rongwei was expelled from the palace, Meng Liangzhou secretly arranged a residence for her. 2 days before the wedding, I took people to escort Lin Rongwei away, leaving a message for Meng Liangzhou. Since you are to wed me, Zhang Lanxin, you shall no longer see Lin Rongwei. It is either her or me. Meng Liangzhou sought out my family, coincidentally overhearing my father and General Zhao in conversation. Now that the border has just stabilized, the crown prince cannot act. The ministers and the common people are watching. Ultimately, the Zhang family is merely merchants, and my Exioner must endure. What can I do if the crown prince refuses to marry her? The emperor remains. When the treasury needs funds, I must still offer all. Meng Liangzhou did not enter but turned and walked away. The day before the wedding, he came to seek an annulment. I realized my father's words had reached him and that he believed them. I sat under the invaluable pomegranate tree, observing the resolute Meng Liangzhou. Does His Highness truly wish to annul the marriage? For that servant girl? He glared at me. I have stated before, she is a lady, literate and polite. Not a servant girl. Oh. Noting my lack of further response as I continued to eat the pomegranate, Meng Liangzhou spoke again. I shall certainly compensate you. After all, we grew up together. Whatever you desire, I shall fulfill. Moreover, you shall not lose. You will gain the title of a noble lady. With your Zhang family's wealth, countless suitors will seek you, so there is no need for worry. Oh. This time, I did not even wish to lift my eyelids. My patience had already been stretched thin. Meng Liangzhou, incensed by my demeanor, declared, I know you are hurt, but your attitude towards me has breached decorum. Very well. So long as you deliver Rongwei to me, I shall overlook the past. I lifted my gaze to him, smiling gently. Someone escort him out. The news of the crown prince personally seeking an annulment quickly spread. The emperor was furious. Wretched scoundrel. Leading troops in battle pales in comparison to your brother's prowess. Governing the realm is no match for his capabilities either. Alas, he is merely a few years your senior, and yet during these years you have only grown in vanity, lacking in decorum and discernment. For the sake of a base woman, you would dare to annul your engagement with Lana. The emperor, incensed, cast aside the prayer beads in his hand. Yet, Meng Liangzhou remained unfazed. As a son, I hold no affection for the princess. Why should I delay her happiness? And who, pray tell, does His Royal Highness favor? Inquired the Empress. Lin Rongwei, Meng Liangzhou replied with clarity. Oh, now that you mention it. I had intended to report a matter to your Majesty and the Empress yesterday, but it got postponed. Since His Royal Highness is present, I shall speak of it now. The imperial concubine gestured, and two female attendants escorted Lin Rongwei into the chamber. As Meng Liangzhou moved to approach her, he was halted. Though this woman has been expelled from the palace, she has committed offenses while within its walls. As I oversee the 6 palaces, I possess the authority to apprehend her. When she suffered a miscarriage, I found it peculiar. She was well cared for. How could she have lost the child? I ordered the imperial doctor to investigate. He has since reported that this woman was never pregnant at all, but rather deceived the crown prince with a delayed monthly cycle. Should your majesty doubt this, you may inquire of the physician. The imperial concubine presented the doctor's testimony to the emperor and the empress. The empress, furious, exclaimed, "To attain power, she dares to toy with the crown prince." The imperial concubine continued, "I fear her ambitions extend beyond mere elevation. As a servant girl, to have ensnared the crown prince to become a concubine is already a tremendous stroke of fortune. Why then would she deceive the prince into breaking off his engagement with Lanner? I find it utterly perplexing. One would think a maidservant tasked with tending to the flowers and plants in the palace would have no knowledge of poetry or conversation worthy of the crown prince. Thus, I commanded an investigation, and the results were truly shocking." As she spoke, the imperial concubine pressed her hand to her chest. Feigning calm, "This woman is the daughter of the corrupt official Lin Jiang, who was apprehended a decade ago. I know not how she infiltrated the palace and managed to gain the crown prince's favor, sowing discord between him and the Zhang family. It appears she has sought from the very beginning to exploit the crown prince to incite enmity between the Zhang family and your majesty, all to avenge her father. The crown prince is astute, yet he has failed to discern her true nature." Lin Rongwei, taken aback, stood in stunned silence, unable to articulate a response. Meng Liangzhou, upon hearing this revelation, opened his mouth but remained mute. The emperor, in a fit of rage, commanded that Lin Rongwei be beaten to death, stripped Meng Liangzhou of his title as crown prince, and annulled the engagement between him and me, bestowing upon me the title of Princess Lingyu as compensation. The imperial concubine fainted upon hearing this decree. "Lana, would you be amenable to the emperor arranging a marriage between you and Liang Chen? During my 17th birthday feast, the emperor announced the betrothal between Liang Chen and me. Liang Chen led me to the highest tree in the royal retreat. Little girl, are you pleased with the birthday gift from Father Emperor?" I nodded enthusiastically, thoroughly satisfied. "And what of my gift to you? Are you content?" I feigned annoyance. "Where is the gift? Until I see it, how can I be satisfied?" With a whistle, Liang Chen summoned a snow-white steed. "This horse is named Su Shui. I brought it back from the northern pass. General Zhao has long sought to acquire it, but has been unsuccessful." I swiftly descended the tree and approached Su Shui, hesitating on how to tame it. To my surprise, the horse sniffed at me and gently leaned against my side. "It recognizes your scent. During the battles at the northern pass, I often held you wrapped in that woolen blanket in the snow-laden pavilion, allowing it to catch your scent several times, and thus it remembers you," Liang Chen explained. Hearing this, my heart swelled with emotion. "I wear daily the chrysanthemum hairpin you crafted with your own hands." Liang Chen tenderly embraced me. "From henceforth, we shall no longer yearn for each other through objects." Upon learning that Liang Chen had gifted me Su Shui, the emperor began to contemplate, why not take the 2 children on a private excursion? Lanner might find joy in riding along. My father readily agreed. Thus, just before the onset of summer, the emperor, my father, Liang Chen, and I, accompanied by the imperial concubine, who had insisted for a long while to join, set off with a retinue of covert guards for a discreet visit. As we departed, Meng Liang's aside, "While you all indulge in leisure, I shall be burdened with this mountain of memorials to review alone." I patted his shoulder. Heaven bestows great responsibilities upon those destined for greatness. Being crown prince is no easy task. Liang Chen chimed in, "You have promised both Father Emperor and Uncle Zhang. There can be no turning back.
Govern Wiseli.
And let your brilliance shine upon the people from the position you cherish." The imperial concubine patted Meng Liang's other shoulder. "Do not dwell too much on your mother. She seldom ventures out. This trip may last 2 or 3 months, or even a year or so. Take care of yourself, and when she returns, I shall certainly find you a beautiful girl from Jiangnan to enrich your East Palace." Meng Liangzi smiled graciously. "If we do not depart soon, I might just tag along." Upon hearing this, the emperor hastily assisted the imperial concubine into the carriage, while Liang Chen's go nearly burst from his lips.
이러대 수șve.
Joyfully waving at Meng Liangza, when the empress returns, I shall bring you many delightful treasures. Indeed, the emperor and my father ultimately acquiesced to Liang Chen's and my wishes, granting us our freedom. The capable Meng Liangza was appointed as crown prince, much to my father's satisfaction, as he was the brother of Liang Chen. Henceforth, the Zhang family became true imperial kin, and their wealth would no longer be a concern for the royal household. Amidst the evening glow, the silhouettes of Liang Chen and me racing horses against the sunset danced in the air. Today, I shall surely triumph over you. The white and red steeds galloped toward the deepening twilight. The end. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this tale, please subscribe and show your support with a like. Until we meet again in the next story.